I got you down as a Trump guy, Dave. Are you? Are you prepared to say out who you are? Yeah?
Yeah, I'm voting for Trump. I'm down $7 million in stocks and crypto. Trump has put his tariffs all over the place. I've been trying to understand them. I don't. And everything's in the shitter because of it.
People are getting killed. Me too.
Yeah, we all are.
You look at your shit?
Bro, holy f***, it's so bad.
Nah, I mean, how much you lost? Be honest.
8 figures. It's almost
damn.
Yeah.
You over here like Kamala, come back to me. You over here singing the song like the Kanye Bianca song.
It's bad. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro.
I'm voting for Donald Trump in November. I've said so many times at this point. But I'm not just voting for Donald Trump. Next week, I will be co-hosting a fundraiser for him. One of the biggest tax increases on American consumers in the history of America. And it's going to cost American consumers. It will cost American producers who use inputs from other countries. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted immediately more than 1,000 points. The S&P 500 plummeted more than 3%. The NASDAQ plummeted almost 4.5%. There are real-world implications for this sort of stuff. Trade wars are, in fact, not good and not easy to win, particularly if you don't actually have a plan.
You just heard some of Trump's biggest pre-election boosters cry about losing millions and millions of dollars after the tariffs that they voted for went into effect. And I've got to say, watching that almost made me a little bit sad. I almost got choked up a bit because there's nothing that makes me more upset than seeing multimillionaires cry about losing millions of dollars. It's just a tragic thing. You know, if only there was a way that they could have known the impact that these tariffs were going to have on their stock portfolios before they used their massive platforms to push for the guy who repeatedly said he was going to do this. You know, maybe if they knew, this could have been prevented. And I just feel so sad for them. But even though these poor, sad multimillionaires are now learning the hard way about tariffs, other rich people who presumably knew better, they're also finding out after fucking around. Now, as you all know, a lot of big tech dickheads got buddy-buddy with Trump after the election. For example, Nvidia's CEO met with Trump after his inauguration to kiss his ring and his ass, presumably. Apple CEO Tim Cook donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund, and both Google and Microsoft did the same, as did Jeff Bezos of Amazon and Sam Altman of OpenAI. Mark Zuckerberg also donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund, then announced a Twitter-like change in policy across Meta platforms. But it turns out that their attempt to curry favor with the new administration didn't pay off in the way that they expected, because as The Hill reports, Trump's tariffs are especially bad for all of these big tech companies. And explain, Apple stock took the hardest hit, tumbling 9% on Thursday and wiping out more than $300 billion in value to mark its worst day since March of 2020. The iPhone maker is expected to be particularly affected by the tariffs, given that most of its products are produced in China. But Apple isn't alone, because CNBC reports that these tech giants lost a combined $1.8 trillion in market value, with companies like Nvidia, Apple, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, and Alphabet, which is Google's parent company, all taking significant hits. Now, to be fair to these rich pricks, oligarchs usually do get the policies that they want, especially after they bribe politicians. So after giving Trump millions of dollars and pledging support for him publicly, they probably expected him to stand down on these tariffs, but unfortunately for them, that didn't happen, and now their businesses are taking a hit after supporting the man who said he was going to do tariffs repeatedly during the election. But they're taking a hit temporarily, at least, because I'm sure that once Republicans pass more tax cuts for rich people, that's going to ease their pain a little bit. Still, it's nice to think that maybe these rich pricks are panicking a little bit behind the scenes. But they're not alone, because other CEOs who have stores that sell the shit that these rich pricks make are also panicking. And, there's one in particular who's really worried. So Matt Bender shared GameStop CEO Ryan Cohen's numerous pro-Trump tweets from before the election. And as you can see, he was very, very, very enthusiastic about Donald Trump. And in February, he blamed wokeness and DEI for his company's failures, which is interesting because physical media is dying, and his company is based on physical media, but okay. Fast forward to the day after Trump's tariffs went into effect, and he suddenly changed his tune, writing on Twitter that the tariffs were turning him into a Dem. And he was right to worry, because the day after that, GameStop noted that they weren't going to accept pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 at the previously expected date of April 9th, after Nintendo announced that it was postponing pre-orders in the United States to assess the impact of Trump's tariffs. Now, his company GameStop presumably was expecting a lot of traffic into stores specifically for Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders, since new Nintendo systems are notoriously difficult to find once they come out. But Trump's tariffs in Vietnam, that particularly affects Nintendo and the Switch 2, since it's mostly manufactured in Vietnam. Now, Trump did announce that he struck a deal with Vietnam, so we'll have to wait and see if that takes effect or if that's going to change, because things can change every hour with this administration. But the Nintendo Switch 2 is already one of the most expensive consoles Nintendo has ever released, behind the SNES and the NES when adjusted for inflation. And Nintendo is charging $80 for games. So the idea that tariffs are going to make the costs go up even more, that is also going to fuck over not just gamers and consumers, but people like Ryan Cohen, whose company is hoping that this system is going to be a boon for his business, right? But if the cost is too prohibitive for consumers, that could harm retailers that focused almost exclusively on video games like GameStop. So it makes sense why Ryan Cohen in particular is coping and seething, because the Nintendo Switch 2 might not be the cash cow that he expected it to be, specifically because of the person that he voted for. And gamers, as I mentioned, are also pissed off. And when you go to the Nintendo Switch 2 subreddit, most of the posters are extremely pissed off at Trump in particular for destroying the launch of a system that they've anticipated for years. And to be clear, it's those kinds of people who are going to be affected the most. Regular working class people who will see the cost of consumer goods rise. Even if they are not directly affected by tariffs, which basically everything is, do you not think that these corporations are going to capitalize on it and just blame tariffs? I mean, they're right to blame tariffs, especially Nintendo here, but even if they're not directly affected or they're only minimally affected, they're still going to blame tariffs in the same way that they blamed inflation during COVID. So it's going to be this ripple effect and the snowball effect that gets worse for everyone. And even though we focused mostly on multimillionaires and billionaires up until this point in the video, they're going to be fine in the long term, just to be clear. It's regular working class people who don't benefit that much from stock market gains who are going to get fucked over the most when the stock market dips. And if these tariffs cause a recession, these people aren't going to be okay in the long term, unlike these billionaires and millionaires who are complaining about these tariffs. In particular, older people who are planning on retiring soon, they're going to feel it the most, since their retirement funds are affected by market fluctuations. And, you know, as the market falls, so too do their retirement funds, and they're seeing in real time their retirement evaporate before their very eyes. And Brian Tyler Cohen shared some screenshots of Trump's own supporters vocalizing their anger with him because of what he just did to their retirement funds. For example, this person says, "I voted for you, but 30% loss of my retirement funds was not what you promised. Myself and others are now sorry we voted for you. You are killing people's retirement accounts. Recall the tariffs. You cost me over $3,200 in my retirement accounts Friday, and I voted for you 3 times. You're killing us. Dude, I voted for you, but you are destroying my retirement account. Pump the brakes. Stock market going down, losing my retirement. I voted for you, and it was a big mistake. Thanks for fucking up everybody's retirement, fucking up our life savings, for ruining a fun weekend with basketball. Some of us don't have time to wait for recovery, and I voted for you. Fix it. Stop the victory lap and fix it. I voted for you, but midterms are flying out the door. Your actions destroy our hopes and plans to retire anytime soon. For God's sake, why decimate everything at one time? It will take years to recover our retirement accounts, but it took you 3 months to destroy them. I voted for you. Stock market in free fall again today. My retirement savings is crushed because of your policies. Golden age my butt. Hey, watch your language there, buddy. I voted for you 3 times, Mr. President. However, you decimated middle-class retirement funds with this trade war. I cannot support you any longer. You have crushed my ability to retire. I agree that things need to be negotiated and better deals need to be made, but we are paying. Mr. President, I enthusiastically voted for you, but you are failing baby boomers with your constant flip-flopping on tariffs. Collectively today, those who are either retired or planning to will lose billions of dollars in their retirement accounts. They're posting as if Trump cares about any of this, by the way. I'm starting to think maybe I shouldn't have voted for Trump last November. You think? These tariffs are starting to get ridiculous ridiculous now that you are affecting my retirement. I hope for your sake things will get better quick. Mr. Trump, why are you destroying American seniors' retirement accounts? This is not what we voted for. Actually, it was what you voted for. I voted for you, but at 60 years old and my first year after retirement, your policy is killing me. Everything I've worked for just keeps dwindling away. So disappointing that you're banking on everything for the future and are screwing me and my family. The market is absolutely tanking. How could you do this to the people who voted for you? I'm actually terrified to wake up tomorrow and see if I have any retirement left. How could you do this to a struggling middle class? I've worked all my life, put away a few bucks for retirement, less than you probably spend in a day, voted for you. Now you want to take the pittance I worked for my entire life to save? Last one. I voted for you 3 times, but am completely appalled at what your self-inflicted tariffs are doing to senior retirement accounts. We can't afford this recession that you're throwing the USA into. Every time you say tariff, we fall several percent. Stop it. 2026 election at risk. In other words, they never thought that leopards would eat their face, even though they voted for the leopards eating people's faces party. And the sad reality is that all of these big businesses, they're going to rebound one day and likely be more valuable than ever. It just is going to take some time. But if that doesn't happen automatically or too quickly, we all know that the government is going to swoop in and bail them all out if these tariffs do catalyze a recession or worse, a depression. But the same isn't true for these people. All of these folks who are losing their retirement, they will never be bailed out, ever. The thought isn't even going to cross Trump's mind. He couldn't care less about these people. And some of them are only starting to realize this after voting for him 3 fucking times, which is so sad. Because I'm sure that they voted for him because they support mass deportation and believed Trump when he said that immigrants were the cause of all of our problems. But now they're learning the hard way that things are worse than ever, even though the immigrants are being deported. And it's pretty perverse, on a side note, that we have a retirement system that hinges on the success of multi-billion, multi-trillion-dollar corporations. See, when you work hard for these companies, you don't get a raise when the profits go up. But if they lose value, your retirement goes bye-bye. Isn't that fucked up? What kind of a sick, twisted system is this? Your fate is tied to these corporations, but you don't reap any of the rewards, only the downsides. Isn't that the dumbest fucking system ever? And on the other end, they price gouge you and they bribe politicians so that way they can cut corners so they can sell you shittier products for higher prices in order to maximize profits year after year after year, all while you get more poor. But that's capitalism, my friends. Regardless, all of these people that we've talked about today, they knew that Trump would implement these tariffs before the election because it was one of his signature campaign promises. I mean, I don't really know what to say. I feel bad in some ways for the poor people who are losing their retirements, but at the same time, it's like, man, as an adult, you've got to kind of take personal responsibility. That's what these boomers have told us millennials, right? Take personal responsibility. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. They all voted for Reagan and tell us that we're not working hard enough, so maybe these people should work a little bit harder, right? Maybe work until you die. That's what Republicans have been wanting for a very long time. Reagan has wanted us to work until we die. They want to loot all of our savings, our pensions, our Social Security, because they want to give that to their rich donors. And you fall for it every time, and you get bogged down by these dumbass distractions like trans people or immigrants, and you let them dupe you into voting against your own self-interest again and again and again and never realize it until it's too late. It's just, yeah, I have no sympathy, by the way, for these multimillionaires, but I have a little bit of sympathy because these people who lost their retirement were so fucking stupid. I mean, I don't know what to say. They could have done a little bit of research. They could have listened to the warnings of economists before the election, but they chose to ignore reality in order to vote for a con man because they probably thought that he would only fuck over people that they don't like, i.e. immigrants and trans people. But it turns out, like we warned you, he was going to fuck over everyone, including you. Remember after the election, for those who weren't tuned into the channel, I said that. I said he's going to fuck over you too, and I meant it. That wasn't conjecture. We knew what Trump was going to do, and he did it, and now you're crying. It's so frustrating. But I mean, what do you say? I guess I hate that Americans are so selfish. You know, if half of the moon broke off and fell on the other side of the planet, most Americans wouldn't give a flying fuck if they didn't think that it would affect them. They'd be fine with all of the rest of the people on the other side of the world dying if they didn't think it would personally affect them. That's Americans. Selfish, brainwashed, miserable pieces of shit who think that we're the only country on earth. It is humiliating. So, I mean, I guess that in some ways, Trump is the perfect representation of our collective stupidity because we are a society in decline. We are a failing empire who has embarrassed ourselves again and again and again. So, you know, Trump is, I think, an accurate portrayal. He's, I guess, a good representative for how terrible America is. But in conclusion, if you're one of the people who voted for this, don't fucking complain because you got exactly what you voted for. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. And now we all have to live with the consequences of your decision. So I don't want to hear you complain. I think the people who are negatively affected by this, who didn't vote for him, they're the ones who have a right to complain. But if you voted for this after he said he was going to do this, don't have much patience for you. Sorry.
Do yourself a favor and click the join button on YouTube to become a member. Because Mike's doing a great job getting to watch his videos before everyone else is tremendous. Many people are saying this. Join today, folks. You won't regret it.